Hello, and welcome to Crushing Classical, redefining a thriving classical music career. This episode is brought to you by Fix Music. If you're looking for high quality sheet music and to purchase it on a beautiful website, seriously, this is the most attractive sheet music website I've ever seen. You should look no further than Fix Music, F-I-C-K-S music.com. They even went so far as to have a YouTube video of a performance of the music you want to buy so you can hear the piece before you buy it. I've never seen that before when buying music. They currently have a great selection of high quality string, piano, and chamber music repertoire at affordable prices. And keep in mind, if you do play another instrument than that, you can get in touch with them through their website and they'll do their best to get your music for you. And just for Crushing Classical listeners, if you order now, you can use the code CRUSH for 10% off your order. Check them out at fixmusic.com. So, Crushing Classical is all about creating your classical music career. In my original interview series, I interview musicians who are currently creating unique and interesting careers outside the traditional job path. And in addition to the original series, we have two new series on this podcast. Our Fireside Chats, where my new partner, Eileen Gordon, and I are finally recording the mind-blowing conversations we have been having for over a year now as I learn about the business world and how musicians are, how would you say, behind the curve in this area. We dive in and talk all things money, career strategy, and so much more. You are going to love this series. Each Sunday, there is a new episode available for you. We also have the Hot Seat episodes coming out every 2 weeks on Fridays. Tune in to hear musicians who want to explore income streams in a hot seat business coaching situation with Eileen and hear them explore ways to turn their unique skills and abilities into an income stream. If you're interested in getting on one of these episodes, send me a private message on my Facebook page, facebook.com/crushingclassical. And now for today's interview. Today we have Will B. and Kev Marcus, violist and violinist who make up the band Black Violin. I got to interview these two dynamic and creative musicians on their tour while they were in San Francisco. Will and Kev started out as stand partners in high school orchestra class, and they said that even though they loved classical music they were learning, the music they lived was hip-hop. As they continued their education and went on to music school, they kept in touch and after school got back together to form this group. You will hear their whole story on this interview. I just love how these two musicians stayed true to who they are and they created a career around that, which in my opinion is truly impressive and inspiring. I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's start the show. Hey Kev, hey Will, how are you?
Good, doing great. How you doing, Tracy?
Great. So good to have you. I'm having Kev, Marcus, and Will from from Black Violin on Crushing Classical today. So you guys make up the group Black Violin, and you play music that you wrote that is influenced by hip hop, jazz, funk, and classical, and you're classically trained string players. So how did you get started on the classical music path?
Well, I started because my mom made me do it. You know, I was in fifth grade. She wanted me to play an instrument of some sort, and the only thing left after I got to the music program was violin. So I played it. Didn't really have a immediate love of it, but you know, after you get the violin to sound like something, and then you know, for me, when it was really when I was able to make it speak for me and not just replicating everyone else's stuff. That's when the violin became interesting, and that's when I knew that I would be doing this as a career. But yeah, it all started from Mama making me do it, and she telling me that I need to find something to get into. And I played sports, but you know she wanted me to have some art, you know, influence as well. So that's what I came up with.
Nice. What about you, Will?
Funny story. I wanted to play the saxophone. They put me in the wrong class, and that's my story. But actually, it was the string teacher at that particular school that don't know, just saw me introduce myself to the band teacher, and I was really enthusiastic about playing the saxophone. And they both basically said to themselves, "Listen, let's play golf. Whoever wins this golf game gets this kid in their class." So the
Oh, it was a
string
bet.
teacher, it was a bet. So, so the string teacher won, and I got forcibly in his class. But I loved it though. I'm not gonna front. I loved it, and it made me feel special. It's just an art form that I knew about, just never really was introduced to it. And I embraced it, and 21 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's awesome. So you guys both play the violin. Wait, one of you plays viola now, right?
Yes, I play the viola. Will and Kev plays the violin now.
Okay.
We're both violists though, at heart.
I see. Okay. So that's how you guys, I think I saw in an interview, you guys were stand partners in orchestra class, right?
Yeah, we were stand partners. We met first day of orchestra class, and we were violists at the time. Both of us were violists, so we were stand partners, and that's just kind of how it all started. It's pretty poetic that we met each other with instruments in our hands, and that became our career. But yeah, that was the beginning.
Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. So did you two go to college together?
No, we went to
Uh,
different colleges. I went to Florida State, and Kev went to FIU, Florida International
Okay.
University. So yeah.
Okay. And did you major in music?
Yep, were performance majors.
yeah, both scholarship students in music, and yeah,
Awesome.
both. Yep.
Awesome. So were you thinking about doing like the traditional career path? Were you planning on, auditioning for orchestras and stuff like that?
I guess because that's kind of what you do when you have a viola
Right.
performance degree. So I think for us both, I mean, we both love music. We both love playing. I don't know if I ever saw myself in an orchestra, but I did take advantage of the free education. So no matter what, I was like, I got a full scholarship to college. I have to major in music to have the scholarship. So let me go to see what's going on. So that's why I chose to go to FIU instead
Yeah.
of just a conservatory because I didn't even know if music was my 100%. It was my path 100%. I did get a scholarship in it. I wanted to go to a place that had options. And
Right.
thankfully, FIU musically had some other options, and it allowed me to learn how to start making beats. And there was a MIDI and an electronic lab where I learned how to like put music together, and just make beats and try to be a hip hop producer. And that really is what took me over in college. I still played my viola and was in orchestra class and everything, but it was the hip hop element of it, which my whole life I'd been listening to hip hop. I never really listened to classical. I performed classical and studied classical, but on my free time, I listened to hip hop. So when I got an opportunity in college to jump in a MIDI lab and learn how to actually, put beats together, that consumed me. And then from there, I was always consumed of trying to mix the classical and the hip hop genres together because we hadn't really heard that at the time. And that's kind of what. So it's like I never really thought about being. I mean, I did. I thought I would maybe one day be in the orchestra, but when I noticed what else music can do and what else it could provide, that's when I really started thinking about the hip hop approach. And Will and I were just kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
We was dealing with the same thing, and luckily it worked out.
Yeah. Will, did you start doing this similar thing, experimenting with you know, the music that you were already passionate about with beats
Not,
and like the MIDI lab and everything?
yeah, not in that way though. I think for me, I just kind of went with wherever the wind was blowing. I had the full scholarship. I just went to classes and did what I needed to do. And did I see myself as a string player in an orchestra? I mean, that was my major. So yeah, I did see
Right.
myself. Did I necessarily want that? I don't know if I wanted it.
Mhm.
I just knew I had a full ride. Let me just go in here and sorry, the cleaners is cleaning my room. I don't know why. But yeah, so I just kind of went with what was the opportunity that presented itself, and
Right.
the mini thing creating hip hop and doing all of that, it wasn't until maybe 2, 3 years after the fact I came back down to South Florida and Kevin and I started just producing together. That's when that whole thing came about for me. That's when I started, you know, developing and becoming this producer and creating music, you know.
Okay. So you said you came back. Did you go somewhere else first?
I was in Florida State, then I came back home to South Florida where it
Oh,
kept.
okay.
Then we moved in together and started producing, you know.
Awesome. I love how it just sort of organically happened and you knew that you had this passion for hip hop, but you focused on your studies and just kind of went with what happened, what you felt like you were drawn to. Seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
That's great. Well, you know, and so then you decided at that point, did you decide to just start, just name yourselves and go with it? Or was it, how did it come to a point where you knew you were a group, or you were a band that you were gonna pursue concerts? And how did it start after that, after you got together again?
Um, well, I think what it was is like we got together, we moved in together, at the end of college, and then we were making beats, and we decided to open up a label. So we opened up a record label, and we, along with three other friends of ours, we formed a production company called the Versatile Connection, and we called it D-Connects for short. And we would just make beats, and we ended up having a couple of artists on our roster. And we would notice that when we would perform with these artists, people would like the artists, but they would always be drawn on these two black guys playing violin in the back. And and we would notice that they kind of were looking at us, and then after a while, the business side of things kind of went astray with the two artists that we were working with, and then so we were like, okay, well, we spent all this time and energy working with these artists, and it's not working out anymore. Well, let's try to do our own thing, because people seem to be drawn to the hip hop violin thing. So let's try to do that. So, and we were in Miami. We're from South Florida, so we're living in Miami, and we were like, well, let's try to go to South Beach and see if we can, play some clubs and make some money, and that was how we
Yeah.
tried to do it. So, my manager at the time, Sam G, he would go into clubs and be like, hey, I got these two black guys. They want to play violin in your club. And they would literally laugh us out the door. It sounded ridiculous. This is the year like 2001, 2002. YouTube isn't existing yet. MySpace just starts. MySpace just comes out. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no place that you've seen anything like this. So it sounds like a ludicrous idea because you've never heard of anything like it. And we
Right.
would have to show and prove over and over. So when a club promoter or owner of the club would say no, then we would park right in front of the club, open the trunk, turn on the radio, and just start jamming right there. And then they would get it because we would draw a crowd, and they were like, "Oh, people like this. Okay, I get it. Let's bring you in my club so I have something exclusive." And then we started doing that. And that was kind of the beginning. Then we sent a tape off to Showtime at the Apollo, and then they call us 2 years later. And if you don't know Apollo is like the longest running talent competition in the world. James Brown
Yeah.
did on Apollo.
Yeah.
The Jacksons, I mean, this is, 80, 90 years this talent show's been out. And now, there's American Idols and X Factors and The Voice and all this stuff. But there was none of that back in 2001 and 2002.
Right.
So we went on this show. We never lost. And that was sort of the birth of Black Violin. And so it's sort of like a gradual thing. It still is sort of a gradual movement that's always moving upward, but it's just kind of like it's moving at a pace that makes sense, so that everyone catches up to what's going on musically. So that's kind of how it came about.
I love that story. So that's true hustle, like, hey, you know what? You're not going to let me in the club. I'm going to play right outside the door. I love that.
Yep.
It's so great. So when you went to Apollo, is that when you named yourself Black Violin,
No,
or did you already have the name?
no, it kind of happened. It's funny. I think we went to. I think we played like a show or something one time, and this is before we actually was. We established ourselves as artists. Because before then, we had artists that we had a whole label thing. So we had two artists that we would perform with, and
Uh-huh.
after noticing how the crowd was very receptive to us, we noticed that, and we was like, listen, why don't we try this whole artist thing? This is before
Right.
Apollo. So then at that point we needed a name. So, we were just kind of, but before then we were just performing at little clubs here and there, poetry spots. And we needed a name, and we just was just like, the first name that came to our mind was Black Violin, and the main reason is because this album, which is called Black Violin by the guy, his name is Stuff Smith. This is a CD that Kevin's professor gave to him his first day of school, and his professor, viola professor. And he listened to that CD and he loved it. It really inspired him. He sent it over to me when I was at Florida State and did the same thing to me. And that album was called Black Violin. So that album was still very, very, heavy to us in terms of just inspiration. So it was just a no-brainer when we thought about naming ourselves Black Violin. It was just like it clicked. So that's at that moment is when we named ourselves. This is before Apollo, before we really started doing anything really. Before that's the moment we decided to become artists and we needed a name. So we're like, all right.
That's awesome. So you were sort of playing back up for the other artists you were representing in your record label.
Yeah, because we didn't really knew that this thing was cool. We've always done it for fun, you know what I'm saying? And we had rappers and singers that we used to perform with and even local artists in Miami that we perform with. But then we started noticing how, man, the crowd would just be really glued to us and what we're doing. And that's when we decided, hey, this could be kind of cool. I mean, let's do this whole artist thing, just me and you. So that's kind of how that started.
That's awesome. And Willie, you're a vocalist, right? In the group.
Yeah, I'm a vocalist now.
Did you ever study that, or did you just started singing and trying it out now?
Just started singing in church, but not really. I was just the bass in the choir in church. I never sung lead or nothing like that. So, but But for me, I used to always just sing R&B tunes. What I'm saying, on the radio, just singing them. I think over time, my voice kind of developed, and particularly when I started producing and writing. I think that's when it started happening. I started just singing a lot more, and being around a lot of singers too. You know what I'm saying, and just listening and seeing how they maneuver and move and you keep doing it over and over. Then your voice just starts changing, and you start being able to control your voice. And so yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's so cool. It's so inspiring to me because, one of the things I heard you say on a different interview was that you studied classical, but you lived hip hop. And so that it was almost like that music was just part of your DNA. So even though, you studied classical, it was such a natural,
exactly,
thing for you guys.
And that's it too. I mean, we tell people all the time, we were hip hop before we were classical, and hip hop is just in us. It's been in us from the very beginning, from birth, really. And for us, taking that violin and being able to express ourselves with this instrument, that's what hip hop is all about. To us, it wasn't an uncommon thing. If you're a dancer, then you do hip hop dancing. If you're a sax player, pick out the sax and do something creative with it, And for us, it wasn't any different. Playing classical music, it was unheard of. People don't do it, but that's just what hip hop is, and that's why we live hip hop, and that's why it was such a organic thing. We didn't wake up one day and say, "Hey, what would be a great idea? Hip hop, classical. Let's put it together. Let's mush it up." It really didn't happen that way. It just kind of happened. Just two young kids just being themselves. Having fun. And being immersed in this hip hop culture. That's what really did it.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think that's what's so great about it is you're breaking down those borders between classical and every other kind of genre because there's such, I grew up in a home where no one was listening to classical. It just wasn't part of my, my parents' musical interests, so I didn't grow up listening to it, but then I, joined band class like you guys. And so the music that I grew up listening to was like just 70s and 80s stuff, and then playing classical. It's sort of like there's this divide between my musical loves, like I do this thing that I play this instrument and then there's this other music I listen to and enjoy outside of my outside of my playing career. So I just love that you're able to meld those two things together. It's holistic in a way.
But if you think of every other genre does that. I mean, if you listen to hip hop, you can hear old school R&B. You can hear just
Yeah.
people sample whatever. And the same goes to country or blues, or whatever, jazz. Classical just to me, I think one of the main reasons why it's such an anomaly, I guess, such an odd thing to think of when it comes just classical hip hop is because classical as a genre, as a culture, to me, it's always been this unreachable thing. Almost
Mhm.
this thing that here we are. You know, we're good. We don't really need you. We're cool. We're here. We're good. We're eating. Great poupon or whatever. So just leave us alone. We're good. To me, that's classical music, and for me, like just like you, I didn't grow up listening to classical music at all. I've actually never seen a string instrument up close until I actually picked it up. So
Yeah.
I had no interest in playing the viola or violin. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of it has to do with just the mindset of just the culture, just like just it wasn't classical music as a whole, just it's not inviting, what I'm saying? It's not inclusive necessarily. And that's some of the
Right.
things that we're trying to change in our music, just to not only just music, but in general. That's one of the reasons why we have the Unity Tour, just to bring people together. And classical music and hip hop couldn't be so far apart, but we present in a way that it makes sense, and people are coming together. And hopefully, people have never really liked classical music, never really thought of listening to classical music. They'll probably be more interested in listening to it now after a Black Violin concert. And it's a great culture. It's a great you know it's a great genre. We love it, and it's given us a lot of opportunities. But yet at the same time, I'll be real. I'm a little critical of it because it needs to be a bit more open. And I think as the years gone by, I think it understands that more than anything. Because now, classical music is fading away in a lot of places. So they
Yeah.
need these younger generations, the younger kids, to understand and appreciate this style, this genre.
Right. So, what is your vision for classical music in the future? Do you have an idea of what you'd like to see it look like? Either one of you? Both of you?
Um, well, when you think about classical music and particularly like orchestras, when you think about what the symphony orchestra was, starting from the early 1800s, it seemed to me that when they would invent a new instrument, it would become part of the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's,
Yeah.
different brass instruments or, when the bassoon comes around and, they just add it and find different ways to use it, whether the celeste and all everything, just whatever would come about. And it seems like at some point they just stopped doing that, and, electric guitars are coming and, all kind of other different cool instruments that they just didn't really, include it. I think in order for classical music to grow instead of regress, it needs to be more inclusive, and it needs to try to reach, the people of 2017 that listen to music. Like my kids, I have three daughters. They're 11, 9, and 7, and I'm a professional violin player. Have been playing my whole life. I play around them all the time. Their uncle Will is also a professional, and when they hear classical music in its purest form, they consider it ballerina music. That's how
Uh-huh.
they think of it. It's either ballerina music or it's the kind of music they hear on some of the cartoons, like Little Einstein and stuff. That's the way they process classical music. Now,
Right.
thankfully, their fathers and their uncle is Black Violin, so they know a little bit more and they see more of it. But that's truly how people think of classical music. And in order for classical music to really grow and again contribute something new to our society, I think it needs to include new instruments. It needs to include new artists like us, that are doing things that are blending multiple genres together so that they're educating new audiences. I think that's also another problem with classical music, particularly, is just that I feel like, if I didn't play classical music, I would never have been educated to it. There was nothing that brought me into it. Where you look at, look at obviously pop music. I mean, rap music. I feel like those genres reach out to kids and pull them in, and make them want to play guitar and play like their favorite rock star, or it makes them want to come in and sing like Beyonce, and it pulls them in.
Right.
Classical music hasn't been doing that as of late, and then and then if you look at it, if you throw education in there as well, the schools that we learn how to play violin at aren't even teaching violin anymore. So if you're not going to learn it by actually playing the instrument, and the classical art form isn't going to bring it to you so that it relates to you in a certain way, well, how is it going to survive? So I think that that's important for all orchestra directors, artistic directors, and for superintendents in schools and things of that nature, to realize that in order for classical music to flourish, we must plant seeds in all of these little kids everywhere, so that they grow up with actually having touched it or heard it or experienced it or have an appreciation for it in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's black violin, whether that's in some way, shape, or form, they need to actually see the instrument and see something that they would like to associate with it. So I hope that that's the path for classical music. We're trying to do our part, just being us, but playing very classical styled, but adding, but we'll play like Black Beatles on the violin, or we'll play I Took a Pill in Ibiza, Mike Posner on it, and then we'll do our own stuff too, and then it'll relate. It'll all start to relate,
Yeah.
and then also just music needs to speak in the same form. Not to go too deep in it, but a classical form where you think of Beethoven's Fifth, da 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 da. It'll do the theme, and then it'll vary for like 2 or 3 minutes, and it'll be beautiful. And if you're classical, you really understand it. But the way things work right now is just like if you listen to the radio, I need the hotline bling. They just plays that hook, and that hook comes over and over and over, and it just beats you in the head with it. And that's what we do. We'll take an instrumental song, but we'll make a hook that comes, and it's like a reprise that'll come every 16 bars or so, just like the radio does it, so that it speaks to kids and people in the same form. Just basically, even on that, like the form and the analysis of it, it will speak to them in the
Oh,
same way as a Drake song or a Rihanna song, because the form is still, here's a hook, then here's an 8-bar verse, then there's a bridge, then there's another hook, then an 8-bar verse, and if you listen to our songs, that's how we do them. Even though they may be 100% instrumental song, it still speaks to them in the same way that they listen to music. That same 3 minutes and 30 seconds that's on that favorite radio station or your favorite YouTube video, or whatever. So there needs to be a bit more of understanding of, we need to speak to everyone in their language in as many ways as we can, because there's a division that's growing, and we need to close the gap and then move forward at the same time.
yes. Oh my God, that just blew my mind. That's amazing. I didn't even ever think of it like that, but that's true. It's like when you try to introduce kids to classical music, it's so far from the language that they speak because of what they listen to. That's what you're saying, because of the form. I didn't even think of that myself. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's how we think of it, and that's why we're always trying to figure it out. Because again, there's a division that's happening, so we need to go back a little bit and
Yeah.
speak to them in a way that they understand it. And once we do that, and once we have them, and then we allow them to express themselves in the same way that they would, like when we do a concert, we say, rule number one: this is a party. Get up out your seats, dance the whole time, pull your phones out, Snapchat, Instagram, all of it. We give it to them the
Yeah.
same way that Katy Perry would give it to them, and
Yeah.
but the instruments are violins that lead it, and that's
Yeah.
the thing that they can understand it, but we're giving them something new, but we're also giving it to them in a way that they can digest it, and they're like, I know what this is, you know.
That is so badass. I just love it because, I've been playing, professionally for quite a while, and I've been living in Raleigh, North Carolina for about 10 years, a little over 10 years. And I've played a lot of education shows, and they don't change it very much. And it's basically, they teach about the form of a classical piece, and you just see the kids' eyes sort of glaze over, they're like, oh, at least I'm not in school, but okay, what are you talking about, And it's definitely not a party. So you guys do kids shows too, right? Like education shows for kids?
Oh, a ton of
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
we do plenty of those. But for just to comment on that little part you just said, I mean, that little kid that's looking at, you know, the instruction or whatever, I mean, there was never a connection that was made even prior to that. So how's that
Right.
going to be able to just look at you and how you're presenting this instrument, this genre, and appreciate it? There's no way. Like, if there's no connection, you know what I'm saying? If there wasn't any
Yeah.
attempt, you know what I mean? And that's the attitude to me of just classical music as a whole. Particularly when you
Yes.
deal with these genres. If you go to these orchestras, like the NSO and all these major orchestras, everyone just looks miserable. You know what I'm saying? They don't look like they're having
Yeah.
a good time. They just, you know what I'm saying? And if we're
Yeah.
coming there and we're gonna play with them, we're gonna perform with them, they all just have this like, like this attitude, this vibe, this prestigious like whatever. And my attitude with it is like, man, y'all about to die. Like, y'all better just like wake up. I mean, literally, y'all are dying. Like, everyone's like, above 65 years old, and you guys are acting as if, you know what I'm saying? Like, this thing is gonna
Totally.
last forever. You know what I mean? But that's just my thing. And not trying to take a stab at the genre itself, because I think it's beautiful, and I think there's a lot to be learned, particularly for younger kids. The way that we present it, it's easy for them to digest, and also it kind of to me it triggers something in their mind. So then they may just hear something on the radio or even just on in the elevator and just like listen to it like for real. You know what I'm saying? Not just listen to it just by passing. So
Yes, it's almost like you can access them through what they already love, and then that can be the gateway to learning about classical. But like what you said, what's the intention of it? When, like I brought up the education show and you're like, yeah, but it wasn't set up for them before they even got there. And that is totally the point, and that's totally the attitude of classical in general. Like you said, I love classical music. I love it, but there's an attitude that everyone should, quote unquote, should love it, and you should learn about it. And that's not never a good reason. When someone tells you you should do something, it's it's usually not a good enough reason to do it.
yeah,
So,
and it's
And
usually
what is
someone
the art
really
form?
old and just stuck in. It's usually someone that's like 80 years old that's just like stubborn, stuck in their own ways. That's always been rich. Has always had money, and just like, you do it this way or else you're gonna fail.
yeah.
And and that person is running this country. Never mind. Continue,
Wow.
please. Continue what you're saying,
So,
Tracy. I don't even want to.
no, well, we could go a whole other direction from that. But Kev, what were you going to say about this? Because this is like my favorite kind of rant, so I'm all like jazzed up. So what were you going to say
Yeah,
about
I
that?
mean, it was just like I was gonna add to Will's point is just that just yeah, classical has sort of like a uppity kind of like yeah, you should come and learn this, but it's just like what is classical doing for the new audience member? Like what
Right.
is it
What
providing?
have you done for us lately, right? Like nothing.
Nothing is not giving. It's not giving it the same way, and that's what we do in our educational shows. And we try to perform for 200,000 kids a year. Whether it's we normally do perform for them, but we also try to do workshops. And when we come to certain towns, like we're going to be in like you're in Raleigh Durham area, so when we come to Durham, we play with a organization called Kids Notes,
Oh,
and
great.
in Kids Notes they actually come on stage with us and perform with us, and we do a little workshop with them during the day, and we try to like integrate it, but we're not sitting around talking about oh make sure that your posture is like this and your frog you play at the frog and then this is at the tip and straight. We're not talking about form. It's
Right.
about expression.
Right.
Because when the conductor asks us, well, how was it after the rehearsal? We're like, it's fine. Just tell them smile more and move more and enjoy it. That's what this is about. And I think not that form and scales and arpeggios and etudes
Uh-huh.
and all of that isn't important because it is because we both are classically trained and been playing my whole life and I'm very classical in how I approach it. But I think that the thing that is lost on most students now is that they don't think of the instrument as being theirs. Like I know for me when I started, the violin was my mom's. I played it, but it was really hers. And then
Mm.
like by high school, I started getting better, and it was my high school teachers. And then I got the scholarship, went to college. Then I learned to start making beats, and I start putting violins with the beats, and now that violin is mine. Like I own that now. And it took me 10 years to get to that point. But I think that, look, let's, switch gears. Like, look at someone that's learning to play guitar for the first time. They go in to go play guitar. Guitar teacher says, "What's your favorite song?" And then they say whatever it is, and they learn the chords to that, because then it makes that instrument theirs immediately. I think that we as classical musicians and as educators of classical music need to try to make the instrument more for the kids. And that's kind of what we teach, when we talk to kids around the world. It's just like, make that instrument yours, have fun with it. Yes, you have to learn scales and arpeggios to play Justin Bieber or play, some other song or make up some amazing song. You have to learn those things. You have to learn the foundation. But music at the end of the day is about creating an expression in someone else, whether it's sadness, happiness, makes me want to dance, whatever. You have to make something happen in me when I hear your music. And for students, it's about trying to allow them to be themselves so that they get that reaction from people. And, instead of just being Beethoven or just being Mozart or just being Lindsey Sterling or Black Violin, be you and find a way to get that reaction out of yourself, out of other people, by just being yourself and being free and loving the music that you're creating,
Yeah, and it's almost like the funny thing when you're talking about that, it's making me think about like that's what it used to be like. I mean, Mozart was himself, man, through and through, and so was Beethoven, and so was like Shostakovich, all these people. And then somewhere along the line that just stopped and it became this hoity-toity Grey Poupon style thing,
Yeah, that's a great
It's
point.
it's so weird, I play the horn, so it's hard to make that into a anything other than something cool to play on a Mahler symphony. But hey, maybe I could, what I really want to do is play Stevie Wonder on the horn.
Do
That's
it.
my favorite.
Why don't you try?
I have tried in the privacy of my own home. So
You'd be surprised how many people might want to hear that. I mean, just when you say it, I'm thinking like, that might be something kind of cool. And then you put a different kind of beat behind it. That's what music is about. It's about trying things, outside of your house, trying,
right.
learning something and then playing it for somebody and seeing how they react to it. You have no idea. You might be sitting on a new phenomenon, but you just haven't let the world hear it yet.
That's true. Well,
we could have been like, well, we want to play Jay-Z songs on the violin. And then everyone is like, oh, that sounds dumb. Like, I don't even know what that would sound like. And if we wouldn't have tried it, then we wouldn't be having this podcast right now. That'd be like a bank manager or some other normal job. And, and I think the first step in that is, you have that idea and then you manifest it, you make it happen and you try it. And maybe it fails, but maybe it works. Who knows?
Shout out to all the bank managers out there.
Yeah. Shout out to the bank managers. Yeah. I mean, but that's what it's about. It's about jumping, like making that initial jump. You'd be vulnerable because somebody might be like, man, Tracy, that horn, Stevie Wonder thing is trash. Somebody might say that, but somebody might, say that it's amazing and want you to do more of it and want you to open for, Wynton Marsalis somewhere. Who knows? So don't limit it, just go with it.
Most importantly, Tracy, who cares what they think, right? I mean,
right.
Are you having fun doing it? Are you enjoying yourself doing it? That's all that matters. That you are able to get closer to you and get closer to what it is that you want to do with your instrument. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of the main reasons why we're successful, because we just don't care. It just so happened that what we do, people love it. It's a great thing. But ultimately, man, I can care less what someone thinks of how I'm expressing myself. That don't make any sense. You don't like it? Cool. Go kick bricks. But for me, I'm just continue to do me and do what I do. And that's what anybody, man, cares. Just be who you are, be unapologetic about it, man. Because that's where you're gonna find yourself, and that's when you're gonna smile every day, man. And when you're being yourself, and when you're not trying to be like anybody else,
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me more about your Unity tour. Is that what you're doing right now?
Yep.
Yeah, we're on the Unity tour right now. It's like it started in September, and it's basically a marathon. We've already done. This is we're around Valentine's Day. We're already 26 shows in. Sorry, so we played 26 shows already this year, and
Oh,
and it's
wow.
amazing. Our crowds are great because what we do, it's most people that come to our shows have never heard of us before, quite honestly, and it's just the idea of us is interesting to them. So we play a lot of performing arts centers, and they were like, okay, Black Violin is violins and it's hip hop. Oh man, my daughter plays violin. Let me bring her and my husband to the show and see what's going on.
Wow.
And that's kind of like most of the people that come to the show. So our demographic is everybody. It's, we have babies, 5-year olds, we'll have grandmas there dancing in the aisles, everyone in between, black, white, purple, green, all kind of colors of people from all kinds of walks of life. And they'll all enjoy it. Maybe they'll enjoy it in different ways, but they'll all have something to take from it.
Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, we named the Unity Tour in the summer. I mean, politically, what's going on in the world, I mean, in the country particularly, it's so much more even important for it now. Like
Right.
we didn't foresee this at all, but it's so important for it to just for us all of the people to kind of come together. And it's great to have a kind of music that brings everyone together. That no matter who you voted for, what side of the city you live in, what you believe in, how old you are, you can come and enjoy Black Violin and the Unity Tour. And not only do we just try to entertain you, we're also trying to educate and inspire all at the same time without being preachy. We want it
Right.
to feel like we want the concert to feel like a meal, not an appetizer. So we speak throughout it to leave a lasting impression about being who you're supposed to be, being yourself, not believing in stereotypes. If someone said, "Oh, the violin isn't cool, you shouldn't do it," yeah, well, that's a reason to prove them wrong. And we try to keep these themes going throughout the concert to not just have you have not just to have you out of your seats and dancing the whole time, which is what happens also, but we want you to go home and think like, man, like I never thought that was possible. What else can I do that I didn't think was possible?
That's all.
And leave a stronger message than have fun at a concert or go practice violin, because those are just surface things, and try to
Mhm.
be deeper than that with it. And it's been really great. It's been successful. Been sold out pretty much everywhere. It's a great thing to be able to be yourself 100% and still educate, entertain, and inspire hundreds of thousands of people every year. It's really great.
That's so incredible. Are your concerts with orchestra all the time, or do you do sometimes with orchestra, sometimes on your own? And what are the types of concerts you put on?
Most of our concerts is just with us. I think we've done about maybe 5 or 6 with orchestras. Our
Hmm.
last one was with the Symphony Orchestra of Augusta. But most of the show is just us. It's Kevin and I and a DJ and a drummer on stage, and
Cool.
it's a rock concert with just no guitars, just violins.
That's awesome. And you're coming in Durham in March, right?
Yeah, we are. We're back by popular demand. We sold out last time we were there, and we actually shot a video at that. I think we're at the Carolina Theater again. We actually shot a video there last year. It's called Magic, the Magic Remix video. So we shot our whole video in Durham last year.
No way.
So it's good to come back. And we have a kids concert and we have a public performance. So we play a kids show at like 10 a.m. in the morning, a public show at night, and so it's a full day, but it's fulfilling for sure.
I gotta get on that and get my tickets before you're sold out.
Yeah, they might already be sold out, but good thing for you, people in high places. So
Good. Yeah, maybe I can find someone to hook me up.
maybe we might be able to help you out.
That's good. So I know I already mentioned Stevie Wonder, but I heard on a different interview that you guys have a big goal to play with him someday. Have you achieved that yet, or
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's definitely number one on our list. You know what I mean? Because
right?
trust me, we absolutely love Stevie Wonder, love his music, love what he represents. I mean, it
Me
would
too.
literally be a dream come true for us to collaborate with Stevie. It's
Oh my gosh, he was here probably about seven, no, probably about eight, already 8 years ago, and I had a concert, and I found out it was a holiday pops concert, and I had to play, and I found out that he was going to be performing like an hour away from where the concert was, so I went up to the personnel manager. I was like, please, you have to let me off. This is really, really important. I cannot work that night. And he gave me the night off, and I drove an hour to go see Stevie Wonder by myself. And it was like the best concert I've ever been to. It's amazing.
I believe it. He's amazing. And then,
So,
yeah, that's the only, I mean, living person that's number one on our list is definitely Stevie. We'll love to.
oh, so great. Oh my God. Awesome. You guys, this interview has been phenomenal. I'm so inspired by you guys. So, can you tell me what is one habit or behavior that you've developed in your careers that's made such a big difference in your career, or the most difference?
I think, I don't know. I think that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I can't speak for Will, but I think it's just we're 100% ourselves all the time. 100% ourselves 100% of the time. I think
Mm.
that that's something that I wasn't when I was a kid. I was, insecure. I wanted to, see what people thought. Now, when I'm on stage, when I'm in the studio, when I'm, talking to Tracy on the, best podcast I've been on, it's like it's about being who you are and not worrying about your flaws or perceived flaws. And I think people just they gravitate to people who are genuine. And I think Will and I, we're not really nervous ever for anything. We just sort of go with it, and it's going to happen the way it's supposed to. And hopefully, if we give maximum effort and we are positive with our energy, it's going to come out great. And I think that's a thing that people sometimes gets lost in. And again, they want to just be like this person and be like that person.
Yeah.
We just want to be the best versions of ourselves. And I think I would say that's a habit that we've developed. And I know I didn't have it when I was younger, but as time goes, it's just easier to be who you're supposed to be than trying to be someone else.
I love that.
Definitely. I guess a habit that I started doing. I don't know when, but it's been a while. Just trying to take in every moment, and just really like before I head on stage. Even sometimes when I'm on stage doing performance, I just close my eyes and look up, and just it's almost like pinching myself. Can't believe I'm where I am, and
Mm.
all these people, all these people are here to see us, and thinking about
Yeah.
where it all started and where I was personally, And you can't help it. I just look up to the sky. I'm like, man, thank God that, I'm able to, like Kev said, I'm able to utterly just be myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just, it's really, it's funny. I think about it and I'm just blown away sometimes. You know what I mean? Have you ever just, I don't know. I'm just myself on stage playing this instrument and I'm making a good living doing it. It's just amazing. I mean, it sounds simple. It sounds simple enough, but I don't know if everyone has that in their lives. You know what I'm saying? Like utterly be
Oh
able to
yeah.
do whatever you want. Just if you love just hitting on if you want to just hit on a pillow and it just brings you joy when you do it, right? And all of a sudden someone wants to give you money for you hitting on this pillow. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I just try to absorb these moments, man. Just make sure that they don't go by too fast, and I don't get old too quick because I can see
It's one of the hardest things to be in the moment, isn't it? You know?
it's very difficult. I mean, it sounds simple, but for me, it's very hard. The more I
Yeah.
tour, the more I travel, the faster time goes by. And when I'm home, I have more control of time. Put it that way. But when I'm on the road, it just goes by so fast. But I'm starting to really, really, really try my best to when no matter where I'm at, I can slow time. I can just go outside my hotel room, just look up and just breathe the air. It sounds simple. Sounds some people may don't understand it, but like I was outside, I went out and I just walked. I went to this little diner and I just walked and just tried to absorb this moment. Just look around just so that I can remember where I'm at. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
for me, like years back, I don't remember anything. Like it just goes by so fast. I don't remember where I was at. It's just Boom, boom, boom. It's June. Boom, it's Christmas. Boom, it's New Year's. Boom, it's Christmas again.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So, as I get older, I notice that, and I'm just trying to really make an effort this year to just, slow down, slow this clock down. But can't complain, man. Life is good. All is well.
Yeah, I'm going to take that advice myself because you know, it's easy to forget. Sometimes you're like, wait, what time the day's gone already? It's time to go to bed. I felt like I just woke up. What happened?
Yep.
you know?
But when
So,
you're 50 years old,
yeah.
you're like, damn. I'm telling you, like I ain't. I'm not trying to be like one of those because I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? I see it in my family where people are 60 something years old and they're old and they're just mad. You know what I'm saying? Because they finally woke up. You know what I'm saying? They finally just clicked.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm 65 and damn, what? You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
try to be like one of those, man. I'm trying to live now, and when I'm 65, I'm just like, whew. Man, that was good. Now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go 6 feet under or whatever.
65. No, you're going to be like 105. Come
Eh, I mean,
on.
if that's the case, then it's cool. I'll keep playing until I can. You know what I'm saying? But I want to
yeah.
be 65 and just be like, man, I've lived an amazing life. I'm thankful for everything I was able to do. It's my time to go, man. I'm gonna take it, man. It's my time to ride out. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, you don't want regrets, that's for sure. That's the worst place to be in is regretful for sure, because you can't change the past. So
Yeah.
being in the moment, that's great advice. So you guys, is there anyone in the classical world that inspires you?
Like currently, or just in the classical world, composers who influenced us or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah, well, anyone. Anyone in the past or currently.
in the past, I mean, I really like, I'm inspired by Brahms. I love chamber music, so Brahms is one of my favorite chamber music composers. So I listen to a ton of Brahms. I listen to a ton of Stravinsky. Um, I'm in a big Debussy Ravel impressionistic vibe right now. So that's kind of my era, the late Romantic, and then the impressionistic era. So that's kind of where I live. After impressionism, you start losing me with Shostakovich and Hindemith. I have my respect for them, and I've played them all, but it's like that's my sweet spot. Like
Yeah.
end of Beethoven to right around Debussy Ravel, top turn of the 20th century. That's kind of where I'm at.
Right.
And then as far as today, I mean, quite honestly, I don't know. I mean, there's a few composers that who I like right now. Jessie Montgomery, she has New Deco actually performed New Deco Ensemble in Miami performed a song of hers off of a album called Strum, and I really like that. I listen to that constantly, and she's I think she just wrote this stuff 2 years ago, and it feels new, but it obviously draws from from the old, but it feels really new and fresh to me, and it's hard for new classical music to do that to me. It feels like
Yeah.
everything has been done in a classical setting, but she managed to do it without adding anything extra to the orchestra. I've listened to a lot of her lately. Let's see, who else has been really interesting? Actually, honestly, just been listening to a lot of old stuff. Leonard Bernstein, I've gone through his whole collection and how he's able to get all of his orchestras to be so intense. They're all
Mhm.
so intense, and I don't know how he's able to pull that off. But I've been listening to a lot of that. But I try to draw inspiration for wherever I find it. It changes on the day, depending on what day or hour of the day it is. I
Yeah.
draw from different places.
Cool. What about you, Will?
For me, um, I love artists. Composers to me are artists. I love artists that can tell a story. It doesn't even matter what the story is, but they can visually. I can see something. I can visually see it while they're presenting. Their material. Shostakovich is one of those composers, especially because his stories is really remarkable, and I can hear it in his music. And one of my favorite composers, which I honestly hated at first, because I was just like we had to play it in school in high school, and I hated it because I didn't understand it. Just the music was just too far out.
Yeah.
But when you get to know his story and understand the reason behind this piece, I mean, it just made all the difference. And I still listen to that piece to this day, and that honestly helped me with just appreciating other composers as well. I mean, where you can go back and just read and just find out the purpose behind this piece. And I love chamber music as well, and I love Brahms as well. To me, that if you're composing, you can I can see the story. I mean, I just love it. I love that, and I love artists that Stevie Wonder and MCs that can really allow me to visually see what it is that they're talking about conveying.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast today, you two. I really appreciate it. This has been super inspiring for me, just personally, as well as I know it will be for my audience. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this podcast.
Thank
Oh,
you, Tracy.
fabulous.
We'll see you in Durham. So
Oh, I'll be there. I will definitely be. I want to bring my daughter Violet to hear your education show. She's a violinist too, but she really only knows Mississippi Hot Dog right now. She's sick.
no problem, no problem. You
But
have
I
our,
think
so just let us know what show you want to come to, and that'll be great.
awesome. Okay, that'd be great. I'll check it out as soon as possible. So, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening to Crushing Classical. If you're enjoying the show, please write me a review on iTunes. 5 stars is nice. I really like 5 stars. And come check me out at facebook.com/Crushing Classical. And I'm on Instagram at Crushing Classical. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.